Good afternoon, everyone, to the big event, Best Practices for Implementing Reuse Events. I'm Lee Bradley. I am with the Northeast Council. A couple of issues today, just to know questions, comments. If you look on control panel, which is that gray box on the right, you question. So if you click on that, you can type in your, and you can do that as much as you want. And then after presenters, I will presenters to answer them. That's about it. And we have the webinar, so the follow-up email. We would love to have you on the survey. So please try to take a couple of minutes to fill out. And also, if you're interested in that. One of our presenters, which is Mohawk Tribe, will, and I kind of have like Kermit the Frog at the end of the webinar, because we hang on. So we will start. Okay, do just a quick overview of best management practices for folks from Northampton. Website, we have lost in reuse. Also, this recorded, and we will all post our presentations on week, and you should be able to find those on our reuse category. USDA for the wonderful project. This webinar and putting on in JAS a reuse guide. So I find exciting about receiving basically any kind, very, very of your community and the whole community and your residents. All kinds of different on a couple of them. Putting together, we'll have really the plant pot and trace plastics collections, plastics, nice little exchange and different things like that. Creativity to work. You see that it's really kind of program. You want to take the needs of your community, you know, what kind of event would best serve your community behind the event. Reuse committee, so they can help you flesh out the goals. And Susan from North Committee, the benefit of having use an automatic volunteer pool to be able to put these events on. Benefits about events any time of the year. They can be semi-active, one-time events. Events is figure out what kind of targeted food in that, whether you're going to toy age or children's toys and clothing, or if you have like a swap event or a look at developing holding joint pressure to staff things. It's really good for promotion. Reuse opportunities within your community allow you to develop partnerships with other nonprofits, restore colleges, pretty much flexible. Evenings and weekends, and then obviously you need to look at what type of event are you going to organize, or donated or resold. Where is it going to be held? It's good to hold your events. That way the community comes back a year. Then you don't need to just, it's an outside one, you don't need to arrange. Who's going to be responsible for the plan, staffing the event, or it can be really low cost opportunities. Volunteers are great. And then agencies, local, receive the collected items. If you're ag swap, even though most of the items, you still might want to contact it or a thrift store. Need, whether it's going to be some have leftover items that cannot be security at your event, traffic, your estimated cost to fund it, and transportation for participants. That's an important one. The events, pretty registration, for example. So think about how you're going to handle that. The event, you're going to need to have people do setup, there's items out on the tables, and Mac will go over some of their event day tasks, events, monitoring the event, things like that. Make it, greeters and monitoring some kind of measure of success, and on that I'll show you. So you're planning horizon on these events with just 1 or 2 months, and 3 months is a good opportunity on an annual basis. Less to factor in, particularly if you're a local government, permits, maybe insure them. Obviously, planning time will help reduce that. Your budgeting, what you're going to do, your operators, staff on board. Any event needs a person from your public works department, or if you're a nonprofit and you're doing this, you'll need at least 1 staff person. Do you have to rent what type of services you're going to have on site? Owners, can you get event? You can share those costs. Holiday toy swap. In fact, we're organizing again in New York State and Jefferson County. Enough about swap. A lot of people cash. People are so excited to be basic. Kids don't have any, and then toys for their children. So, and Mac will be talking about there. This is what it and all kinds of your donations out there. Also, college, take it or leave it, or out events. This was Starkson up in the North Country in New York State. Boxes with signage and all. They did come in and take items need if they no longer want it. We did it again in New York State, very small communities, 7 events, so people had a wonderful time. Another idea for us, don't have to have them all in one place, you can just point, and that's a real neat way to again get the community involved. Recycle your reusables in Shirley, Massachusetts. They need to come on site up and bring their donation items. They line up in their cars. You can see the traffic on the right are all the vendors. Bring vendors, collect anything from stations, excess food, bicycles, pretty much anything can be do that. So not a real on-the-ground community, but allowing people to do events are really wonderful. Recreation, you've all heard about, another kind of event, great opportunity to start in the community. This particular one's in New Paltz. In Halifax is about 6 of the community have phase. That's what it looks like at a repair cafe. Around, they have seamstresses, you have people who repair, opportunities for communities. Earth Fest event down in Knoxville was around reuse. An outreach Facebook page, if you get a Facebook page, it's a great idea. Check out Northampton Use. Repair Cafe. I thought was great for the recycle your community. And then measuring the impact of reuse. Be real creative in this. You want to be able to show your metrics. So these are just some of the tips that you can look at when you're doing your reuse events so that you get some metrics going. And my website again. So I'm going to pass the presentation over to Susan and Mac, and then they will present, and then we can take some questions. Okay. We're putting together a reuse guide, management reuse. I will also have cases for all of the reuse activities that be posted on the Northwest. So Susan Waite is the Waste Reduction and Recycling Coordinator for the City of Northampton, Department of Public Works, and that's in Massachusetts. She spent about 9 years as the City of Amherst Recycling Coordinator, excuse me, and then moved over to Northampton. Prior to all that, she spent about 10 years in the reused clothing industry. And Mac Everett is a volunteer for the Northampton Reuse Committee. He's a retired teacher, started volunteering with the Reuse Committee about 4 years ago. Big proponent of reuse as a way to reduce waste, pollution, and our carbon footprint. He works about 10 hours a week on reuse activities as a volunteer. Okay, Susan and Mac.
Hi there.
Hi.
Glad to be here.
Can everybody hear us okay?
Yep.
Great, great. Well, we're really excited to participate in NERC's webinar today, and we are just really charged up because we've been able, with the help of volunteers and support from the City of Northampton, been able to do some really great things. My predecessor, Karen McQuillan, did some amazing groundwork to get this off the ground, and I've been lucky enough to be able to step in and keep it moving forward. And Mac is going to explain a little bit what it's like from the volunteer perspective, and he's going to chime in with additional information. Let's see. I'm having trouble moving my screen here.
Click on the screen, Susan.
Ah, thank you. There we go. So my position is part-time for the City of Northampton, and I work very closely with the Reuse Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Public Works Commission. And we are a working committee of about 7 members, of 9 members, voting members, and we have lots of other volunteers that come to our meetings to chime in with their ideas. Some days we have more than others that come that are non-voting, but we have a real strong core of about 9 members. We meet monthly. We do have working groups and sometimes subcommittees that work outside of our monthly meetings. And the committee is administered by myself, and I work about 20 hours a week, although that expands as needed. One of the things I wanted to talk about was what motivates us. I guess what motivates us to get involved with reuse. And there's a really people on the committee are really excited about promoting sharing and combating the kind of consuming frenzy that's in the United States about consuming lots and lots of stuff and then throwing it away when it still has value and use. So we want to promote sharing. We want to promote the purchase and repair of quality merchandise, which is really one of the most important pieces of the reduce, reuse, recycle trio, triumvirate, we could say, to be able to reduce by repairing and not having to purchase new items and reusing. So we're really gung-ho about that. We also feel that our efforts are a big community building benefit, either within partnerships with nonprofits and other organizations, departments within the city government, but also within residents, because the interaction that people have are just really powerful. And then we feel strongly about reducing carbon footprint because of the diversion of material and the reduction in carbon emissions of schlepping it around and moving it around, and also the landfill and incinerator diversion that we're reducing that.
Yeah, I would just add to that the committee got really jump-started more than 10 years ago because we have had a landfill. We had a landfill for many decades in Northampton that reached the point where it was full, and it was either going to have to be closed or expanded. And the town had a vote on it and decided to close it. So now we're in where we used to be able to put all our stuff in the landfill. We now truck our stuff some distance away from Northampton, and we're aware that that can potentially cause problems for other communities. So we really are looking to reuse as much as possible to cut down on that stuff that we have to ship elsewhere.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're mostly talking about today are what we call our pop-up events. And we hold about six to eight some years at various times during the year. We are limited in resources and weather. And that's living in Massachusetts, the winter months are much slower. We either have indoor events or no events at all. We tend to have single day events, usually just Saturday mornings, which are really, it's a really great aspect of our pop-up events because our volunteers still have their Saturday. They can come in at, 7, 8 o'clock, and we're really mostly done by noon. So that's a real powerful component of relying on volunteer help. We try to find a central location when at all possible, and we've been having ours lately at the same location every time, so that people have, so they know immediately where to go. If they hear about a reuse rally or something, they know immediately where to go. We have some DPW staff that participate and help with moving trucks or roll-offs, but for the most part, it's staffed by volunteers.
And I would add that the volunteers are not necessarily people who are on the reuse committee. There are a number of other volunteers that like to come out to help with a one-day event that may not necessarily want to be on the committee. And also the events themselves are a source of new volunteers because people come and we ask them whether they're interested in the work and if they would give us their contact information, and then that generates an email list that helps us to find more volunteers for coming events.
Yeah. And then finally, the events are publicized mostly by very inexpensive methods. My predecessor had a Department of Environmental Protection grant initially that was really fabulous with sending out postcards, et cetera, to the community, but that has waned. And so we really get our word out by social media, Facebook, the city webpage. The mayor has a Twitter account and he tweets about various events. We post flyers on community bulletin boards. We have what we call our famous Burma Shave road signs that we put up on city property that I have a picture of one of them coming up that tell people a couple days ahead of time when we're having an event and what kind of things we're collecting. We do some paid advertising. The DPW usually covers that. It's fairly minimal, but we do put the ads in the paper, etc.
We also have a local radio host who's been extremely enthusiastic about our work and has a kind of a talk show that anytime we have a big event coming up, he's more than happy to have us come in and do a little interview with him, and it gets some good publicity, I think. And then there's also Craigslist. We put stuff on Craigslist as well for free.
Right. And another really important piece of our reuse pop-up events is that we bill them as zero waste events. So if we are collecting styrofoam, for instance, and somebody brings something that is not acceptable to be recycled, we will ask them to take it back home because we're trying to be zero cost and zero waste, and we don't want to collect a bunch of stuff that the city then has to pay to throw away. So we tell people that in our advertising that this is a zero waste event. So you might be asked to take something back home and dispose of it yourself. So here's our roster of events for 2015. As I said, we're limited mostly by resources and weather. This year we opened our Center, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. So we reduced our events by 1 or 2. But we're going to be talking about some of these events as we go along here. And the first is our holiday toy exchange, and that's coming right up. It's very exciting, and it was one of the biggest events that gets attention. We get a lot of TV attention for this. We get radio attention, and people love it. This is an event that doesn't require a whole lot of paid advertising, although we do advertise in the paper for toy donations. But the word really gets out, especially with the younger set of parents who tend to be more connected with social media. So I'm going to turn it over to Mac, and he's going to tell you, because he's been the lead volunteer for a couple toy exchanges in the past.
Well, I think that the toy exchange is a real natural. I guess because I'm a parent myself and I'm a former teacher, I've learned over time that kids use things, toys, for a particular point in their development, and then often in 6 months or a year they're on to something else. So, and there's always younger kids coming in who can use those things. Likewise, as a teacher, we were always getting our materials budgets cut and so forth. So I was always on the lookout for toys and games and books and sports equipment, outdoor equipment that I could get at a low price or for free and integrate it into the program in my school. And, you know, I think, as Susan said, the response we've gotten for this event has been huge. It's just, we've done it for probably about 4 years now, I think, and 5 years, and thank you. And it's grown every year to the point now where really some of the biggest challenges are dealing with the large volume of stuff that we get for the exchange. And the space that we do it in is a high school cafeteria. It's a regional high school, so it has a large cafeteria with lots and lots of tables, and literally thousands of toys come in for this event, starting on Friday evening during the donation period, and then again Saturday early from 8 to 9. And basically we set it up so that we can get most of the toys in there and get them arranged on tables before the event begins, just to minimize the chaos and so forth. And so we do take a lot of stuff in. We take in lots and lots of stuff on Friday night. We have screeners who are going through everything. And again, most people, we tell people, bring us things that are clean, all the parts are there, nothing is missing, and they're basically in good working condition. And I have to say that the public is 99% great about doing that. Occasionally, we get stuff in that really shouldn't be there. Either it's missing parts, or it's broken, or it's too badly used. And we do have to turn that kind of stuff away. Sometimes we say to people, is this something you would give to your best friend, or whatever, you know, just to give them a sense that we can't actually take everything, but we will try to take almost everything and find a reuse for it.
I just want to jump in. What you see on the screen right now is some of the posts that we put on our Facebook page about the event to try to drum up the toy donations. Yeah,
another issue that came up for us is that you can see from this one that we have a huge amount of stuff. In fact, in the past we've gotten some people bringing things that are brand new, and we've gone over in our minds what's the way to get this stuff not only to middle class folks, but to the lower income folks who really have a need for it, because as we know, around the holiday season there's tremendous pressure, financial pressure, on parents to go out and get new stuff for their kids. So we have generated a procedure working with some local social service agencies where we get some help identifying their clients who are folks that, you know, might need this stuff more than a middle class family would. And we invite those people to come in during the first hour of the event on Saturday morning to get a crack at some of this stuff, even if they're unable to donate anything themselves. So that's been a way to partner with some local organizations to make sure this stuff is spread around to people in different income groups.
I would just want to chime in. On the screen right now on the right, you can see the ocean of stuffed animals that we get in. Most of these are in extremely good condition. Some of them are a little worn and torn, and a surprising number of them go out. The good news is that through a partnership with the Salvation Army, whatever material or whatever stuffed animals remain, the Salvation Army is willing to take, and they actually, if they can't sell them in their stores, sell them as textiles to the rag and textile industry. They get a per ton amount by sending them along, and so they do get reused and recycled.
You can see from the slide on the left that, again, there's a really large volume of toys coming in, and we try to arrange them. We might have books in one area, we might have games in another, that sort of thing. And so we try to do a good job organizing it as best we can. And also we're concerned about the traffic flow. Basically, we try to set up a one-way traffic so that people can come in, they can shop, and then they leave by a different exit than they came in, just because it does get pretty crowded in there. Last year when we started, we had probably somewhere around 100 people waiting to get in when the doors opened, and there was a steady flow coming in after that as well. We ask people to limit themselves to what they can carry out to their car in one trip until about
10 o'clock.
About 10 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock they're welcome to come back in and take whatever they want. So that way there's, some attempt to make sure that the early birds don't take away all the good stuff, and that other people coming in a little bit later will have access to some stuff too. We do get a certain amount of donations that are pretty valuable, and rather than put them out on the general floor and have people all going after them, we set them aside and we have a raffle. And basically, to participate in the raffle, you either need to be in one of two groups. One group is people who have made donations to the toy event. So when they bring in their donations, they get a certain amount of raffle tickets. And then the other folks are the low-income folks that we invite in, who may not, again, necessarily be able to make a donation of toys, but they're eligible for the raffle too. And then what we've done in the past is to set these items up in a display area so that people can see them well. And then we put these white containers, these buckets in front of them. So let's say somebody has 10 tickets, they can enter their tickets, any number of from 1 to 10 tickets in any one of these containers to take a chance at winning. So again, there's no money involved at this point. It's just a free raffle. Mm-hmm. And then partway through the event, we stop everything for a few minutes, and we actually have people, volunteers, pull the names out, and we distribute the raffle items.
I'm not sure what the genesis was of the raffle initially, but we found it to be really useful in preventing people from getting grabby and greedy. So there are certain items that if more than one person wanted it, there could potentially be a little tussle if tempers were thin, and this really prevents that. So we just kind of go through and identify the things that we think are going to be really popular and in great demand, and we put them in the raffle. I don't know if Mac mentioned, but we do also collect toys the night before. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So on the Friday night before, between about 4 and 8 p.m., we open up, where we do this in a school cafeteria, so we open up and we accept donations for that 4-hour period. We also accept donations for an hour before the toy swap begins.
So people are coming from 8 to 9 Saturday morning to donate things, and then from 9 to 10, there's that first hour when donors and low-income folks shop, and then from 10 to 11 it's open, 10 to the rest of the morning it's open to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've also had another event that has been popular, has been a costume swap in the time leading up to Halloween, and that's been fairly easy to set up. Basically, we set up a rack at one of our, usually there's other reuse events associated with it, and we collect costumes and accessories that'll go with costumes and make them available for people. The craft collection, we could talk a little bit more when we talk about the arts event, I think.
Okay.
Because that was a variation on the arts and crafts events that we do, but that's the costume swap.
Right. Yeah. It's popular. We send out notification to all the elementary schools, and I think it goes to the middle school as well. So it's fairly popular. I'm kind of always a little disappointed that we don't get more costumes in, but I think that might be an indication of our throwaway society. People are buying cheap costumes and they might not make it make it into a dramatics box, as my mother used to call our box of fun costumes and stuff. So the next event that we wanted to talk about was our tailgate tag sale and swap meet, which we have typically held twice a year. This year we just had it in the fall. And the one really great thing is that one great outcome of some of the events that we've been holding is that they get mimicked by other organizations, which it really makes us happy because we are wanting to foster a culture of reuse, and it's happening. So our tailgate tag sale actually got mimicked by the local newspaper, who had a similar event in their parking lot. And we were kind of secretly thrilled because they can get all the free print advertising that they want, and we have to pay for ours. So it was promoting reuse in a really cost-effective way for our organization. And they had a successful event, and we have as well. So what we do is very affordable for people. We just charge $10. We are in a large parking lot behind a school. As a participant, you get 2 parking spaces, one for your car and one for your stuff. We take care of the advertising. We take care of the administration. You just come with your car full of stuff and a table or a blanket and some cash to make change. So it's a very easy event in some ways. We've had a couple bad days of weather that has been challenging. We now have a rain date, but even that is kind of disappointing. It's always disappointing when you pack up your car and it starts drizzling. But we've had successful events despite that. This is one of our Facebook posts for the event, and we do advertise in Craigslist. We advertise in the print classified section and online classified under tag sales, and we do a lot of social media awareness as well. And I think we'd also put up flyers for that event. This year and a couple years ago, we ran a reused art show and sale, which was such a great idea, and we had a real good crowd this last year when we ran it. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
Yeah, I was going to say we've really had 2 types of events since I've been a volunteer that have focused on arts and crafts materials. One is a relatively easy and straightforward way to do it, and then the other is quite elaborate. And the first one is basically just an exchange where we have that large room at the high school, and we invite artists and craftspeople to bring in materials, and we accept them, we put them out, and then they can shop and take away the ones that they are most interested in. That's the down and dirty basic one. We have a woman on our committee who's very passionate about both art and reuse, and so she
spearheaded this.
She spearheaded this, and it was based on some other events I think that she'd been involved with. And with this one, first we tried to identify artists in the area that incorporate reused materials into their work, and that's what the 75% refers to, is that a work of art would have to be composed of at least 75% reused material in order to be considered reused art for the purposes of this sale. So when we identified those folks, then we asked them whether they would be interested in doing an event with us, they would be able to set up displays and sell their reused art, and at the same time we would be collecting things that they specifically need and asked us to collect. So for example, we had artists that were looking for metal, small pieces of metal or jewelry, like are used in these metal constructions in the slide. We had other people looking for fabric. We had people looking for interesting found objects, wire, as well as traditional art materials too. We collected those. And so what we did was when we had a list of artists who were interested in participating, we said to them, what do you want us to collect for you? And we actually took their wishes and we put them together into some publicity, and then in the community, through our normal publicity channels, we solicited those things. We are looking for these things for artists. And then as donations began to come in, before the event, we pre-sorted them for the artists, so that what we wanted to do was to give each artist hopefully at least a box or two of materials that he or she could use in their work. So we had stuff coming in before these events that we were sorting and collecting, and then actually during the event too, we had stuff that we were accepting, and we got a lot of stuff, and that's one of the ways that the event was fairly demanding, was that we had to do a lot of sorting on the spot. You know, the artists were pretty much thrilled with the materials that they got, although they didn't all, it depends on what they wanted. Some of them we were able to give a lot of material to, and others not so much, depending on what they wanted. We also had a great end user for that event too, which was a program that does big art reuse programs with children, and they were willing to take a great deal of surplus materials that the artists decided that they didn't want. So that was helpful. So that again, it helped us to make it more a zero waste event.
I want to chime in. I started this saying that it was a lot of work, and it is. It also was extremely rewarding and really exciting. If we do it again, and if I could go back and change what we did, I think I would probably recommend that you call it something different. What this was, that the caliber of stuff was really pretty phenomenal that we had, but I think that the public was confused by the reuse. They didn't realize this was really a gift show or a craft show, and you know, something that you could buy some really great things for the holidays as gifts. And I think the reuse thing kind of confused them. They thought it was maybe junky stuff or something like that. So I think that I would be more creative with what I named it.
Yeah.
And maybe stay even away from reuse, I mean, if possible, because that really kind of throws people, because the uninitiated might have some problems with that. But it was very, very successful.
Yeah, and I think it was a mix, you know, from the artist's point of view, there were different results. Some artists really sold a lot of stuff, and then other artists didn't. Again, it sort of depends on, you know, what the material was and how much their price points were and that kind of thing. So there's no guarantees that they're going to be able to really, you know, have a worthwhile day. And I suspect if you invited them back, the ones that did better would be eager to come back, and then others wouldn't.
Right. We had a lot of fun with this, and somebody else from the community offered to work with thrift shops and charity shops in the area to have a fashion show. So we had a fashion show with about 10 models, I think, various organizations. Some of them had one outfit, some of them had two. We also worked with the high school and they had a bake sale, and they had coffee and food, and they were raising money for a trip to Spain. And so that was really great. So it was a really neat community event where we involved a lot of people.
Yeah, some of the high school students were really helpful to me too when I was trying to sort all this stuff for the artists that we were taking, and I was getting a bit stressed out. And some of the high school students were terrific at helping to sort things and then ferrying them out to the artists so that we could keep things moving in that department.
It was a very successful event. We decided that it was a lot of work, and because our primary, or one of our major goals, is to divert things from the waste stream, we felt that the amount of stuff that's actually being diverted by these wasn't where we wanted to head. We wanted to focus a little bit more on a bigger bang for the buck. So this was a big bang for the buck, and I'm going to let Mac tell you about it, because this is something that he knows is near and dear to his heart.
Well, the introduction to this one is that for many years, the PTO, or I guess as they used to be called, the parent-teacher organizations of our local public schools, cooperated together to do a big plant sale in the spring aimed at gardeners who are looking for, you know, buying plants. And when I say these are not only small plants, but basically gardeners were digging up perennials and repotting them, and there were people selling, I think, tools and equipment connected with gardening, and it was all a benefit for the public schools, for the PTA programs that they were sponsoring. And so this was a long established event. And then, of course, at any of these events, there's a lot of flower pots and related material around. And so it became something we felt like we could dovetail onto very easily by having this collection of plant pots and trays. And yeah, sure enough, it was a great match. And we brought over one of our roll-offs and basically stationed some of ourselves there, and I don't know how many hundreds of these things came in. Yeah.
I just want to jump in and say that we are really lucky in Western Mass that our materials recycling facility does accept bulky rigid plastic for recycling. That's because they have they have people who are willing to buy it from them. Not all communities have this. So we're happy to collect it because we know that whatever doesn't get reused is going to get recycled. Not all communities might have that option.
Yeah.
This is a Facebook post about the event that you see?
Yeah, as Susan said, it was very lucky that we could accept the ones that nobody would come and take because we had an end user for them. But we had quite a few people coming and taking pots too.
One of the neat things was we had a bunch of social services people who were really, really excited because they were trying to get some of their clients to have tomato plants in their apartments or at their homes, and this was a great opportunity to get some get some food stuff planted and teach them how to do that and get free pots. So they were really thrilled. So then we have our recycling rally, which we usually do twice a year, and depending on the time of year, we kind of pick and choose which things we're going to be collecting. It's really a recycling and reuse rally because that's where our focus is. We want to get things reused as much as possible. One of the biggest pieces are our bulky rigid plastic, which as we just learned, we are able to recycle in this area of Western Mass. So what we do is we do a swap. We do a bulky rigid plastic swap first, and whatever isn't taken by the public, we then recycle. So there's a whole bunch of really great stuff that comes in, and whatever is not broken or badly stained, we put out on the lawn, and people are welcome to come and take it for free before it gets recycled. And we've estimated, we usually have about a 40-yard roll-off, and we probably give away for reuse at least 1.5 roll-offs worth of plastic. And we usually fill a roll-off or a roll-off and a half with remaining broken plastic. But you can see by some of these pictures some of the really amazing stuff that we get in. And your kid grows up and it's perfectly good and it's sitting out in your yard, and you think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to let this make another kid happy? And if you don't have a neighbor or a relative to give it to, what do you do with it? And you can see, especially this little tyke stuff and the real durable stuff, all it needs is a good scrubbing, and it's going to make some kid pee in their pants. So there's some really great stuff that we get in. You can see here, I'm not sure if that Rubbermaid container thing is broken or not, but we get a lot of coolers in. We get, you can see those 5-gallon tubs in the back. Those are always very popular. We also collect styrofoam, or as it's technically called, expanded polystyrene. We are collecting only white, clean, non-food related polystyrene because the organization that takes it and puts it through a densifier finds that is the best product for them. So we don't take shipping peanuts because there are other outlets for those, usually mailboxes, etc., and those UPS store will take those in plastic bags if they're clean and dry. So we send people that way, but we also we get some reused stuff. If you see up against the dumpster there is those coolers that drugs and sometimes seafood and stuff like that come in, and those are actually pretty useful for people. We pulled out because people like to come and take those and reuse those for other purposes. Mm-hmm. And you can tell we don't have much fun at these events by this picture too. So this is from our recent November 7th event. We had this roll-off plus the extra stuff that had to be we had to send another truck for. This is what we collected in 3 hours at our November 7th event. And we also collect bicycles for Bikes Not Bombs, which is a Cambridge-based organization that collects bicycles, repairs them, and ships the parts to places in the United States where they can be used by communities or to other countries. And so they accept bicycle parts, they accept bicycle accoutrements like helmets, etc. And sometimes they retrofit them. Some of the bikes you can make I forget what those things are called, where the fork there that holds the tire, they actually can wedge something and heat the frame and expand it a little so that they can fit a thicker tire in there that is better on dirt. Okay. In Africa or in Mexico, yeah. So they do a lot of great work. So they do ask for donations to help with shipping because that's one of their major expenses. And if you can see there's a big pile of 5-gallon buckets, and they were collecting those buckets as they saw them come in at the bulky rigid plastic swap across the parking lot, because those are really, really handy for shipping parts and other things to other countries, in part because they contain them and in part because they can then be reused in the other countries. So they were just really tickled to participate, and they like to collect, if they collect 25 bikes, they're thrilled. Well, they're happy. They like more than 25 bikes, but.
Yeah, and this is an example of a nonprofit end user, I think, that we're really happy to work in collaboration with. In the toy, just going back to the toy event, we also connected with an organization that deals with foster children and foster parents, and they have a particular set of needs that, given that those kids end up moving around a lot. And so we've invited them also to the toy exchange to take stuff and they've been very grateful for that. So another end user example.
Right, and ultimately these bikes are mostly metal, so they can be recycled. But why recycle something that's beautifully made and can be used in another community or another country? We also ask a local shredder to come, and we allow people to bring 2 file-size boxes of personal documents for secure on-site shredding. And ProShred has been really great, great partner with us in that. And this year we collected pumpkins because the school that we collect them, the school where we hold the event started their composting program up again. It's an agricultural and technical high school, and they re-upped their composting program. So they were really happy to collect these pumpkins in the back of a truck and spread them on the fields, and they're going to get plowed in the spring. And they were really, really thrilled to do that. They got about 4 truckloads of pumpkins this year. And the great thing about the pumpkin event, obviously it's seasonal, but you can have a lot of fun with, bring your rotting pumpkin flesh to us. There's a lot of great community spirit that can be driven up. Bring us your tired jack-o'-lanterns. And people, the radio stations, the TV stations, the newspapers, it catches their eye, and they have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it was a great PR move.
The pellet bags is something that we've collected in the spring. This one has not been as popular, and we have to figure out why, because there are a lot of people here in Western Mass. We have pellet stoves. So, but we did collect some, and those go to the same organization that collects the styrofoam. He has an outlet for them, and I think they get sent to make plastic lumber like Trex lumber and stuff like that. So we've learned a lot of stuff, haven't we, Mac?
We have.
one of the things that's really important with working with volunteers is to be clear about what you need from them, when you need it, and what some of the ground rules are. Especially with the toys exchange, we get volunteers who have kids or might have ulterior motives for participating, and we're really clear that the whole point of the event is to make gently used toys available at no cost to local children. And we ask people to respect that goal. So we do get people who either are reselling or wanting to give to all their all their family members and nieces and nephews, and so we really emphasize the sharing and the limits for that event in particular. And then you have to be assertive when the ground rules are broken. We have had awkward situations where somebody's trying to scurry an extra box of stuff out the door the night before the event, and so you have to just kind of clamp down on that and say nine nunca.
Right.
Not allowed.
Right. At the same time, we acknowledge the fact that many people are attracted to our work because they like to get good stuff for free, and that is a little perk when you volunteer, but it has to be done in an appropriate way, and we definitely discourage the idea of reselling for sure.
Right, right. So being patient with end users and partners, a lot of our partners are nonprofit organizations, and they are either working with volunteers or a very small staff, so sometimes you have to call them multiple times before you hear back from them. And so it's just kind of par for the course, and you have to be patient, and so as a result you got to start a little early and make sure that you somebody is on it. What we do for our events is that we have, in addition to myself, we have a lead volunteer for each event that works with me, and between the two of us we can just kind of make sure that things don't slip through the cracks. In a group, when you have a lot of volunteers coming from a lot of different places, there are people with personality quirks sometimes, or just things that some people are not very tolerant of, and so we've really learned to find the gold that each person brings to the table, and love that gold, and rise above kind of personality issues. But I think we're in a good kind of working space, don't you think, Matt?
I do, and I'm gonna pay Susan a compliment, and I say that that's one of her great strengths, and that's been really important for the smooth functioning of our reuse committee.
Right, right.
And
well,
our
thank
events.
You.
Yeah.
And then grant money is manna from heaven. If you can get some grant money from somewhere, you're in clover, because it is helpful. We've begun to fundraise to help offset some of our advertising costs, so that the DPW doesn't have to cough up money for print ads and newspapers, etc. But that's kind of slow going. I usually, at Toy Swap in particular, I have a bullhorn, and in addition to reminding people that the spirit of the season is giving and sharing, I also encourage them to make a donation if they can to the event to help offset the print advertising. So I think last year we collected just about $200, mm-hmm. which was nice. I mean, the advertising cost more than that, but it was a nice chunk to put towards it. Mm-hmm. We also have some success tips. Do you want to take that first one, Matt?
Well, yeah, I think it's more or less speaks for itself. Every time we do a big event, there's always things that we want to remember for the next time around. So we try to take the time to do that, both as individual coordinators of an event with Susan, and then also as part of the reuse committee, so that we learn as we go along. And there's definitely a learning curve involved in doing these events, and we've definitely done things that have been difficult, and we've said, no, we probably won't do that again, or we'll change the way we do it. So we try to learn from that experience.
Kind of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is involve the community. As you saw from some of our photos, we really involve the high schools. We try to whenever possible. We involve other community organizations like the work that we do with the early childhood education folks in our school district. We work with local nonprofits and involve them, as we did with our art show and sale, with all the thrift shops and charity shops. So it's a really great way to build community and promote the reuse message. We also nurture those relationships. So we try to send thank yous afterwards to whether it's the document shredding folks or the Bikes Not Bombs folks. We keep in touch with them and make sure that we are meeting their needs and that they're meeting ours. Because we are involved in a lot of different, with partners, as I mentioned before, sometimes because of nonprofits or volunteers, things go a little slower than you would like them to. And sometimes it's a municipal issue or red tape. So it's important to plan ahead and start early. Do you want to take that next one?
I'm blanking on that one.
Well, we there are certain things as you do these and repeat them. There are certain things that you learn are always going to be there, and so we've really tried to get those labor-intensive things that are the same every year streamlined. So one of the things that we've done, I mentioned our Burma Shave lawn signs. We have lawn signs that can be used for a number of different events, and so one of them says Saturday 9 to noon. So I have one sign that says that can be used for all of our different events. I have another sign that says tag sale. I have another sign that says bulky rigid plastic collection. So we can kind of swap out the signs. We originally had handmade signs, but because of the number of events we did, it was just really time consuming. So we invested in with some grant money, in some Coroplast signs that could be swapped out. And we get the stakes and we put those in city property. We put them in front of the DPW building, in front of some schools, in front of the water department, etc. So that catches a lot of drive-by traffic. And I recommend, if you do something like that, that you try to put as few words on it as possible, because as people drive by, you really have just 2 seconds to get their attention. And if you put a lot of graphics and a lot of fancy fonts on there, they're not going to be able to read them. So then, love your volunteers, I guess, is the last one, and that is, it's just really important to make sure that they understand the contribution they're bringing and that you value what they bring to the table and you value their time.
Mm-hmm. And again, I would say, to emphasize, that there's really kind of two groups of volunteers. There's the people that are really the core of all this, the members of the reuse committee. And then there's the people that come and go for the different events. And, just Susan has been great about bringing coffee and donuts and so forth to a lot of the outdoor events that are especially in the cold weather, which brings, gets everybody's morale, improves everybody's morale. We've also done things like we've given people certificates that, that are fun, certificates of achievement, basically, and appreciation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, recognition for the contributions that they've made. And there's a funny little story too. There's a local T-shirt printer who has given us T-shirts that are either overruns or they're seconds. And we have a committee member or a subcommittee member that's an artist, and she made up a silk screen. And we turned those extra T-shirts from the print shop that already had logos and so forth printed on them. We turned them inside out and put our silk screen on them. And we give them to volunteers. And at a lot of events, we love to go and wear our T-shirts inside out that have our reuse committee, strutting our stuff on the reuse committee. And I have to say, as a volunteer, that it's been great fun to participate in many of these events. There's really almost a kind of a carnival quality to them. and people are, you know, thrilled to be getting stuff for free from us, and the public, and people are also thrilled to be giving stuff to us that they know will be reused, and that just adds to the positive feeling.
Yeah.
That,
it's a real win-win.
And so it's
yeah.
and I think the volunteers just pick right up on that. And you can see in these are photos that are just give you this is real. People have a good time.
And these are we try to have safety vests for our volunteers, first of all for their safety, but also to help people identify who to ask questions of. And I just wanted to say that the guys on the left were from our November 7th event, and this was their first time helping, and they were just tickled pink. They were from an organization called Interact, a club at our local high school, and they were just really thrilled and want to get involved with some of our other events as well. But it is a fun kind of environment. People enjoy it, and again, because we are only 3 or 4, we only ask for 4 hours of their time on a Saturday morning, and then they're off to have the rest of their event. So we're just going to we just have a couple more slides, and then we're going to turn it back over to Athena. But Mac, you want me to take this one?
Why don't you start?
Okay. Well, as we mentioned, we have a lot of people who call and find out either at our events or through the newspaper, etc. People call or friends of some of our committee members, and the universal theme to all of our volunteers is that they get some kind of a thrill out of making sure that things are diverted from the waste stream. So they're really passionate, and that's a real it's an easy way to find people, and a good place to start.
We hate waste. We hate waste.
It's important to give people the tools and resources and clear expectations that they need. So they need the tools and resources to get the job done, and clear instructions and expectations. And then help them understand and see the impact that they're making. So either through metrics and publicity, etc. To make sure that they see what they're contributing and how their time and talents are being used in a good way. Everyone has a special gift. Discover what it is, and this is something from the committee that we just have learned. It's just really beautiful the way people come out of the woodwork when you need them, or people say, oh, I can do that. We really have a diverse group, and everybody is contributing something. We have a new volunteer who just started coming to our meetings, and we've been kind of struggling about improving our metrics, and it turns out she has experience in database management, and it's like we asked the earth for this, and the earth granted it to us. It's just really great. So she's going to be helping us out with some of the database kind of metric stuff. So we're really excited about that. Sharing leadership with those that are capable and those that want it. It's one of the great things that is a benefit to the volunteers when they learn new skills and or have an opportunity to take a leadership role and stretch their leadership capacity or use their leadership skills that they've already had from their work life.
Yeah, and I think as a volunteer that it's great to spread those responsibilities around, so that if someone is out of town or away or for some reason, there's other people that have the leadership experience that you can count on to step in and help out.
Yeah. And then just make sure that people know that they're appreciated. We've had some parties and pizza parties. Mac had mentioned we give out some recognition certificates sometimes, and just be sure that you say thank you when it's appropriate. This is from one of our celebrations, and we're going to just quickly explain what has happened as a result of a few years of having these pop-up events. We realized that we wanted a place that we could collect stuff that wasn't just a day-long event, and Mac's going to just briefly explain a little bit about that, and we'll wrap this up.
Well, from the get-go on the reuse committee, people have talked about having some kind of a permanent site, a swap shop, where people could take and drop things off, and there wouldn't be the limitations by having to just do everything as a one-day event. So this is a long story, which we may share with you on another webinar, but basically after about 10 years or so, what was then the Board of Public Works decided to allow us to use a space at the old landfill. To the right, you can see a snowy hill, which is actually our former landfill that's capped now. And this space here was a space where trucks and so forth were maintained, and it was lined.
Susan, I can't hear you. Did you press your mute button? Oh, boy. I am sorry, everybody. I'm not sure what's happening to the audio for our webinar. We will definitely talk with GoToWebinar, and I'm very apologetic. Hello, Susan. Well, I greatly apologize for the lost sound. I am not sure what has happened. I guess because I can't get it back. I don't know what to do. I am greatly apologetic, and guess I will have to end the webinar for everybody.